And look, there's a technical challenge to start with. There's meant to be one other child on the left-hand side there. So has disappeared. But let me tell you about her. Her name is Amelie, and she is 8 years old, and she is one of the reasons why I push for progress in the agribusiness sector that you're going to hear a little bit about today. But on the other side, you see my son Spencer, who is 7, and he has his own push for progress as a ballet dancer, a tap dancer, a jazz dancer, and a hip-hop, very successful dancer, and is one of 2 in 120 students in a dance school in Westport, and he continually pushes for his own progress and actually doesn't care what the females think anyway. So I'm going to tell you a little bit today about my journey. It's a personal story. It didn't start in agribusiness at all, to be honest. I studied medical science at Otago University. I went back to my hometown after I'd finished studying and worked there for a while before I headed overseas to work in Harley Street in London in one of the prestigious private hospitals, which I had a fantastic time. If you'd asked me many moons ago if this is where I would be with cows and grass and poo and beautiful areas in the West Coast, I would have said, you're nuts, absolute nuts. However, this is where I now live. To give you just a little bit of Keoghan Farm, this is where we are. Excuse me, there's a view from the top of my farm. My husband and I have 300 hectares there. It's a business that we own. It's not just a dairy business. We have honey, so we have some hives, we have some native planting in there, and really looking to diversify our own business. But that's only one of my jobs. I also, as Miranda said, run 7 farms for Landcorp, just outside of the Buller, and I'm a director for Westland Milk Products, which is New Zealand's second largest dairy co-op. On the side, I'm also a director for Buller Holdings, and I have a new role, and I am getting out of one of those other roles, as General Manager for the Pāmu Academy. Before we go back to that, you have to wait. So once I finished my training and I went overseas and worked in London and Harley Street, I came home, and you know what they say about true love, right? One time at band camp. So I play trombone and euphonium and percussion, and I play in a lot of brass bands, and I'm often only one of 2 or 3 within that band. And so again, I never really thought about gender parity at all until I went to Westport. So in my band life, we're used to playing with multiple wonderful females who didn't think that they had the skills or didn't think they had the ability. However, they do. So I met my husband, and love prevails and all the rest of it, and we got married and went back to Westport. Now again, I asked you earlier, would I have thought that I would be back in Westport? The answer is no. However, his family are dairy farmers, and we have had our land in the family for 130 years. So when his father rang us and says, look, I'm not getting any younger and I'm struggling, would you come home and run the family farm? At the time, I said no. He said yes. So what do you do for love? You do as you're told. So we did. So I took my medical science degree and I went to Westport, where there's nothing medical at all. And I thought, my goodness, what on earth am I going to do with my life? And so I spent the first, month or so there really stressing about what I was going to do with my career, and I studied hard and I learned all these wonderful things, and I couldn't do anything with it. But interestingly enough, I met a person, which these slides are out of order, so I'm hoping it's going to come up next. No, but that's okay. I met this person, who's my mother-in-law. She, over time, has fought all gender trends across many generations. So she married into the dairy farm that we now own. Her father-in-law told her that she was never allowed to be on the farm because she had to be at home cooking. But they had to give her lessons on how to cook because she had no idea. So she dutifully took up this is 40-odd years ago, she took up those lessons and she cooked for the family, but she also said, no, I'm going to go out on the farm, I love this place, I'm going to be out there and I'm going to do it no matter what you say. So she's my rock and she's my mentor, and she's the person who encouraged me to get off my rear end when I went to Westport and figure out what else I could do with my skills. So initially, when I went back to Westport, I actually applied for a role as a lab tech, or a lab manager, in one of the cement plants there. Now I thought body chemistry, cement chemistry would be fairly similar, and it wasn't, but it's all right, I learned. And for a number of years I worked at that plant. That was the first place, though, excuse to all the males in the room, where I actually ever felt that there was any pressure against gender and against my progress within the business. So I was one of 3 females and 120 people that were in that plant, and I was the only one who wasn't an admin. So I was running a group of people in chemistry and technical side, and I absolutely knew that that's where I wanted to be, and I knew that I wanted to be running that plant in time. However, week 3 at that plant, I got told that I should be at home looking after my husband and my children, who I didn't have, and preparing clothes and cooking for them. Now, unless I'm making a packet cake that comes out of one of those Edmund boxes, I don't cook. My son asked me the other day what that thing was when I was ironing my band uniform. I said, it's an iron, dear, it flattens things out. So it tells you how much washing I do. I have a mother-in-law who does that. This one. So when I was told that I should be at home looking after my children, and which again I didn't have, and my husband, I bucked the trend though. So for me, that really was like a red rag to a bull. I was like, no way, Jose, man. That's not where I want to be right now. I want to be enjoying my life. I want to be using my brain, and I want to be doing the best of both worlds. So I did. I told them that's where I want to be, and they sent me to Switzerland to the IMD. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of that, where I did a leadership diploma over there, and left my children for 8 weeks. At that stage, I did have children for 8 weeks while my husband looked after them. Then he made the brave journey, bringing them across to the other side of the world on his own when they were 18 months and 3 years old, with a bottle of Finnegan and a lot of wine on the plane. And we both talked about it a lot, about how he wanted his career to progress, but also wanted mine, and we can do both. So once I'd finished working at the plant at Wholesome, which was closing down, I needed to look for another opportunity. Oh, look at that, it's working. And that opportunity came up in the form of Landcorp. So within the Westport region, we have 7 business units there. They're really big farms, and they were looking for a person or a business manager to run them. Now again, I have my own farm, but all I do is help out on the weekends in terms of milking and feed a few calves here and there. So when they asked me, did I know how I could run multi-million-dollar farming businesses, I said, yep, absolutely, no worries. And I was absolutely lying, 100%. But I knew that the leadership skills that I'd been taught in the other industries would help me out in this new business. So I walked into Landcorp, 7 business units, 5 females, across 100 staff. And when I asked, and myself, I was one of 12 business managers, I was the only female. So when I asked why did we not have enough diversity within the business, they said, oh, well, we just don't get people applying. People aren't interested. So I asked you guys, what do you think a farming role does? Go on. Someone give me an answer. If you're a farmer, what are you going to do on a daily basis? Dairy farmer. Milk cows, work on the farm. Drive a tractor, absolutely. So one of the problems we've got is that is just so wrong. So a dairy farmer, for example, is a process engineer. So they have to be able to figure out what's going wrong with the plant. They need to have mechanical and process engineering knowledge. They're environmentalists, so we have to look after our land. We have to understand about planting and riparian. We have to know a bit about payroll, human resources, tax, GST, all the science stuff in the background, leading teams of people, up to 10 people at a time. Contractor management, health and safety, the list goes on. But one of the challenges we have in the agribusiness is a lot of our females think that it is just driving tractors, driving motorbikes and lifting heavy things. They don't understand that actually there are roles for all of us. So what we've been working really hard with in Landcorp is getting our reputation as an industry right. So how can we share that throughout New Zealand that actually that's not the case at all? There is a role for them. I have a 42 kilogram little person who works on one of the farms who can lift as many calves as the 90 kilogram person beside them. It's not about that, it's about how we have our reputation out in the community. Let's just check these slides again. Just as a side, I had the opportunity to represent New Zealand in 2014 in the brass band, and there was 2 of us. 2 females, and we went to China. They had no uniforms for females, so they dished out these male things and told us that we just had to manufacture them up to wear them. Sew them up, they'll be right, you'll be all good. However, if you look at the most recent national band, which is this one, and there are a couple of females missing out the back, they more than tripled in 3 years. And again, it's not the ability, it's the people who had thought that they couldn't apply for a role such as this. With the milk products. Not only was there a gender issue on the board when I started, but there was an age issue. I felt like I was about 14. Over time, so we've had a big governance review that we instigated, and we've made some significant changes. And I'm pleased to say now that we have again doubled the number of female that we have on the board. We also have a female CEO, you might have heard her, Tony Brendish, and we have a much better age distribution and inclusivity on the board now. So one of the things that we said as Landcorp was, how on earth are we going to change our reputation within the industry and get more people applying? Now, I don't usually like to put your name forward for awards. However, somebody did. I don't know who that person was at the time. And I won Dairy Woman of the Year. But what I realised when I won this was that it brought on so many people within our industry who didn't think that females could be involved in agribusiness in any way, shape or form. So whilst it wasn't the most comfortable thing in the world to win, being able to use that inspiration for others within the region. And in two years ago, I kicked off a program in the Bulla as a scholarship program for the high school students, and aiming to get, not just females, but just aiming to get better quality of high school students going away to learn tertiary education who understood what agribusiness was, that it wasn't just driving a tractor and riding a motorbike. And if the slides were, I'm pleased to say, what do you notice about those? These are all our scholarship winners and our Dairy Award winners. Yeah, with the exception of one over here, and that was not at all engineered. This is just the way they applied. They were the best candidates for the role, and interestingly now, a good 50% of those have now come through to our farms in Landcorp and applied to work for us. So you work, the whole generation gap starts to disappear. Then they start to do that with their own families, and from having 5 staff across the 7 business units when I started, we are now nearly 50% female. We also, shock horror, have some ethnicity diversity as well, because there was none of that to start with. So we're moving on, and even more important, what we've noticed and what I continually now talk about up and down New Zealand is that the profitability and the productivity of those businesses is significantly better. So no offence to the males in the room, but we are great organisers, right? Great multitaskers. And I just read out that talked about that massive list of tasks that we are expected to do on a daily basis. What better situation is to have inclusiveness within those businesses. So we're really excited now. We're moving on to a new journey. We've got some new young people coming through, still winning dairy awards, still encouraging others to come through the business. Still, we have 9% of agribusiness that are female. Still, it's tiny, it's teensy, but it's doubled within a year. So what can we do to help this out? We have wonderful networks such as the Dairy Women's Network that's operating, and when I came to Westport, my mother-in-law, that crazy woman before, said to me, let's go to a Dairy Women's Network evening. I said, I don't want to knit. What are you that for? I don't drink tea, man. Do they have wine? And she said, well, we're not going to knit, because I don't do that either. But amazingly, they're actually all about exactly why we're here today. How can we press for progress? How can we press for change? And institutions like that are really helping our industry. So again, and the same thing in terms of awards that have been won for myself throughout the last year. What's that meant for my daughter, who wasn't on the picture before? And she's an amazingly driven individual, but by God, does she give up when she's got things going tough. So to be able to prove to her that, the going gets tough, you've actually got to stick at it, and to show that we can wear many hats, right? So on one hand, I'm in my gumboots and I'm out on the farm, doing whatever with my husband, or in the next minute I'm in a suit running businesses or in a boardroom. So we can be multiple people, and to prove that, not only to your family, but to those within your industry and with outside the industry, has been an amazing opportunity. Thank you.